My fellow Ambazonians, dear soldiers of our revolution, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for the sacrifices that you have made thus far. I know Ambazonians are in pain. I know the difficulties are extremely visible. And so it is difficult to construct a different narrative that differs from the pictures emanating from Bali. The massacre and burning of our young men, our finest and brightest soldiers. The murder of our civilian population. We understand the pain, and as I said long time ago, I was very sure that it wouldn't be easy. But I am quite confident about the direction we have taken. I am quite confident about the resilience in the Ambazonian people, the spirit of defiance, and all the sacrifices that have been imputed into the struggle. For all the soldiers who have been killed for the massacre of our people, the killing of the bishop, the men of God, I would ask all of us to observe a minute of silence in their memory and their honor for the sacrifices that they've thus far made. May their souls rest in peace. Fellow Ambazonians, soldiers of our revolution. First, let me salute the bravery of our comrades in Kondengi. In the past days, we were made to know that there has been communication with Comrade Tasang, Comrade Ayok, Comrade Benji, and others. We were also made to understand that they have been moved from the high security section of SED into the general section. Your prayers, your belief in them, and believe in the cause for which they have sacrificed a lot has made this possible. And I want to thank every Ambazonian from across the globe and the four corners of our territory for the steadfastness and the continuous support and belief in our overall strategy to end the occupation of our homeland. Before I came on the air, I was also made to understand that Comrade Chris had moved his show from 9 p.m. Amba time until 10 p.m. I want to thank him, and these baby steps are what we need as an oppressed people to show solidarity. I thank you very much, and I would replicate in good faith and ask all Ambazonians to watch your show at the top of the hour. I also want to thank everyone in the past week who has made some positive moves towards one another. I would call upon everyone to bring down the tension and to focus on the liberation and to look at the sadness emanating from the homeland and rededicate our effort, manage our energy and direct it to impact in a very, very strong way on those who have brought pain and misery on the lives of the Ambazonian people. I said from the beginning of this revolution, our focus is to destabilize and evacuate from our homeland the enemy that has held us in bondage for the past 57 years. We've not wavered, we've not blinked, our position has not shifted, our strategy remains the same. Though we suffer certain setbacks, we understand this is the nature of the revolution. They will kill us as they have done even in times of peace. They will murder our people as they have done even in times of tranquility. We accept these things as part of our nature, as part of the collective suffering that Ambazonians have faced in the past 57 years. Let me assure you, when they burn churches and kill priests, when they shoot down soldiers and burn them, when they massacre our people, it is not out of strength. It is out of frustration. When they make videos after they have abandoned their posts because our brave soldiers took them over, it is not out of bravery. It is out of frustration. Cameroon is frustrated. Cameroon knows the economic cost of its occupation has multiplied. Cameroon knows the legitimacy it derived through political occupation of Ambazonia was totally dismantled on the 7th of October when we overwhelmingly boycotted the elections it made in our homeland. Cameroon knows that we, the Ambazonians, are writing the last chapter of its presence in our homeland. It has spilled our blood for the past 56 years. It has murdered our bravest men and women. It has kidnapped from our land and exported to its own territory our finest patriots, those who even clamored simply for the reformation of the colonial system. It has brought untold suffering to our mothers, to our girls, and to the entire population of Ambazonia. We have never known peace since the sad day that the terrorists from the other side, 57 years ago, moved into our homeland. And until, as a people, we collectively make up our mind that Cameroon will not know peace, that the world will not again negotiate the fate of Ambazonia to be part of a system that has brought us untold suffering and misery, unless we make it absolutely clear through our actions, our endeavors, our utterances, and our collective determination to the world and to Cameroon that this revolution is the last chapter of Cameroon's presence in Ambazonia. Unless we let them understand that we are ready to shed our blood, to water the tree of liberty, so the next generation understand that the blossoming of the trees, the flowers, was because we fought for them. We sacrificed for them. That we didn't blink, we didn't bend, we didn't negotiate. We will remain slaves in the land of our birth. We will allow foreign legislators to write our laws, foreign executives to implement the laws, and foreign judges to interpret them to suit the premise of the occupation. Ambazonia is the land of our birth. That is the last resting place of our forebears, where our customs and tradition, our sacred places lie. We, the Ambazonians, are the only rightful owners of that land. We will not negotiate it. We will not mortgage it to the next generation. We will not tire. We will not sleep. We will not blink until we punish Cameroon in Ambazonia and make sure that we determine the future of our homeland. Ambazonians have reminded us many times. This generation will not organize peace and reconciliation commissions. This generation will not forgive. We will bring everyone whose actions, whose omissions and commissions have caused the death of our people, including us. Words matter. Actions matter. Myself included. Any Ambazonian whose actions, whose omissions have led to the death of our people, prolonged the suffering and occupation of our homeland, you will be held accountable. Let us not make the mistake that Africa has made. To think, to forgive, and to forget is the pathway to prosperity. We are in servitude because we never held people accountable. We never repatriated our fortunes that were stuck in foreign accounts to develop Africa, to develop our homeland. This generation will take a different stance. We will be that generation that will write the books of restorative justice and make it retributive justice. So the actions you take today, you should know we will hold you accountable. Because your words matter. Your actions matter. In the interim, we will do all in our powers to work together, to make sure we can collaborate where it is possible. The construction of any legitimate platform that brings together the brightest minds of Ambazonia is a daunting challenge. It is not the lack of willingness in some leaders, in some activists. It is the absence of the understanding on how these things are done. Ambazonians have lived in servitude for so long. They have known one strong man. They have known a system that legalizes political parties, absorbs them into its own system. They've understood that from 1966, we live under a one-party state, where for 57 years under Cameroon, we've known two presidents who've organized elections, rigged those elections. There has never been a transition as it happened in Ambazonia. This is what we have known. We have known to celebrate mediocrity. We have learned to adopt nepotism. We have never learned to celebrate meritocracy. We have never learned to be able to be specialists and accept that in certain businesses, in the art of construction, probably the carpenter is better than the bricklayer. And so it's going to take a reordering of our mindset for Ambazonians to be educated, to understand that in certain businesses, there are certain prowesses that are mastered by others and not others. So it will take a lot of time. It took Ambazonians a long time to even believe that they have a right to a homeland of their own. Every Ambazonian wanted to reform the colonial state in a federalist structure, tied to the occupier, because they had been so much inculcated with the notion of being a Cameroonian that they thought they were losing something by shedding away, the tentacles that had put them in so much pain and anguish. So it will take a while for us to build that level of understanding in the mindset of our people, to know that you can serve. Like I served the SCY leadership for 22 years. Like I serve other leaders. From the barrister Kontang Elat, to the foursomes, to the Njoli Tumbes. I held their backs. I was their secretary. I was the guy who fought for them. If you don't know how to serve others, it will be difficult for others to serve you. And so we must build this kind of spirit of pluralism, acceptance that in this revolution, there are masters in the formulation of revolutionary ideas. And they are masters in the building of the implementation strategy. There are people who understand the landscape in a way that they can project in the next 2 years the attitude of the enemy. And so to stop our young men and women being slaughtered, we must be able to give to Caesar what is Caesar and to God what is God. We are a people. We fight together. We bleed together. We lead together. Sometimes if in a collective setup, like in the AGC, when they call me the leader of the AGC, I simply am the one probably who implements. But there are more powerful people with more powerful ideas, gifted men and women who can shape policies. They don't respect me because I'm the best. They respect me because I'm simply the leader at that moment. And that respect is reciprocated in the things we do, in the way we treat one another. And I call on Ambazonians to adopt a sense of understanding and tolerance towards one another and towards meritocracy. We've lived under a system where those who merit never have a chance, because you could bribe your way to any position. You know, you could ascend to power simply because you had money. People never really believed in merit, in having the possibility, you know, to bring their prowess to be the magic that turns the table around, either in policy conception, formulation, or articulation. It will take a long while for us to come to this understanding, and the period that we are going through is educating many people. It's giving an idea of the difficulties that we are facing. These experiences that we are having today is going to help us in the time of governance. It's going to breed the next generation of leaders who are going to govern Ambazonia. We are not sure to be there, but the ideas we construct, we formulate, we articulate today will be the foundation upon which the governance of Ambazonia will take place. My fellow citizens, our revolution is on course. To make Ambazonia a contender, we must reshape our policies at the level of the international system. We have done well thus far, as we define the triad approach of self-defense, internationalization, and targeted diplomacy. We understood clearly that the international system is an important actor in the act of recognition of a state, and that we have to engage the international system. We have to educate the international society so the populations, the citizens of the different countries within which we organize ourselves can understand why we fight, so they can in turn pressurize, you know, their own policymakers to change the policies of their government towards our country and towards Cameroon. Through that effort, we saw the brilliance of a comrade that took our case to the US Senate. For the first time in our history, other stakeholders bat for us. They spoke for us. They defended our case. They made our case. Before, we thought it was impossible to be on the international news. Through our actions, through our meticulous ideas, we got even the powerful German parliament to speak for us. We got more than 100 German parliamentarians petitioning their own government to take action to make sure the root causes that have compelled Ambazonians to rise up to fight against the occupation of their homeland are addressed. These parliamentarians don't know us, but they understand us. They feel our pain. They've seen the pain plastered on the faces of mothers. They've seen the bravery and determination of a people willing to free themselves from the yoke of colonialism. They know that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It's not by accident. It's not by some coincidence. It's by planning, enveloping our ideas in a package strategy, like a jigsaw puzzle. It is able to snowball from one stage to the other, to touch the hearts of the unknown in far distant places like in Berlin. It didn't stop there. The Swedish foreign minister and the ambassador to the United Nations at the UN Security Council raised the plight of the Ambazonian people. The United Nations at the Human Rights Conference in Geneva got the case there. Sweden spoke there, Finland spoke there, Portugal spoke for us. Through our endeavors, we were able to market the Ambazonian case across the globe. We've shifted geopolitics in a way that realigned itself to understand the injustices committed against our people in 1961. Somehow has to be reversed. For if there has to be international peace and security, it must hold same for Ambazonians. For if peace has to reign in London, on the streets of Paris, in Washington, we have to also feel it in Buea. That a threat to peace anywhere is going to threaten peace everywhere. It was through our collective actions, because we laid down a plan, a master plan, a plan that has redefined the way revolutions are fought. We use the social media to market our case. Our Twitter warriors, Facebook warriors, WhatsApp warriors. In less than 2 years, Ambazonians learned the history of their homeland. They undid exactly what Cameroon took 57 years to construct. The history that Professor Ngos wrote and taught was dismantled by a generation probably that never sat in classrooms. We used the tools that were available to us to make our case to the world. In London, it was not a House of Parliament. It was the Lords. The Lords talking about servants, people they betrayed more than 57 years ago. For the House of Lords to speak for us, for the Lords to back for us, you should cheer up. You should know this generation has done what? Multiple generations across the globe, even where they were educated, had the power of the media, had the lobbyists, had rifles more powerful than ours, rocket launches. This generation, with their ideas, conception of a strategy, their bare hands, their determination to write their own story, got the Lords to speak for us, to bat for us. These gains no one, no historian, no political scientist, no legal expert can take away from us. The thunder this generation has created, plastered on the streets of London across the globe, rewritten the history of colonial theory to make sure Ambazonia featured in the rightful place in the history of the world as the first democratic country in Africa, the first country that exercised the transfer of power without bloodshed. We deserve to be recognized. I understand the world still thinks that the Ambazonian problem is a Cameroonian problem. Like the Lord said, after briefly articulating historical facts, they still think they have to transfer the resolution of this conflict to Yaoundé. The same mistake that the organizers of the so-called Anglophone conference are making. That we bled on the streets of Buea, Kwakwa, Kembong, all of these places to make sure we move our struggle from the human rights realm to the security realm. That we make our plight an international issue. That we, this generation, through their blood and sacrifices, were able to move our struggle from a domestic realm into an international adjudication realm, where it rightly belongs, where those who conspired against us understand our history perfectly said that anyone will think that we will accept anytime soon that Cameroon, that has murdered our people, that Cameroon, that dismantled our educational system, reoriented our curriculum of education to make us slaves in the land of our birth, that Cameroon that made our students to study in French, deprive our people of opportunities that were provided by the Commonwealth of Nations, will be that same country to reconstruct our educational system to reflect our values. If anyone think that Cameroon that dismantled our legal system, made sure it transferred all those it arrested from our homeland into its own system where it could put them through a kangaroo trial, lock them up in very dirty conditions, murdered some in jail, that same country will be given the opportunity to reconstruct our own legal system. If anybody believes that the same Cameroon that dismantled our economic system, shut down our economic potentials, shut down power camp, made sure the Yoke Dam was closed, that made sure that it exploited our resources and paid taxes in its own country. That the same Cameroon that drove our banks out of existence will be given the mandate to reconstruct or to build a system that accommodates our own way of doing business. If anyone ever dreams and think that this generation will transfer authority to the same system that dismantled our parliament, our house of chiefs, manipulated our own politicians to bat for them, fight for them, make policies for them, that the same Cameroon that has made it impossible for Ambazonians to exercise their right as a people, to choose their own government, formulate their own policies, cause them to be implemented to benefit Ambazonians. That this same Cameroon that has disregarded the right of our people to existence, treated our captured men like slaves, locked them up without the possibility to see their families, detained them incommunicado for more than a year, tortured them psychologically, that this same system will be given the opportunity to reconstruct a human right culture that presumes you not guilty until proven guilty, gives you the right, to a lawyer to defend you. The international system made this mistake once, when they passed UN Resolution 1608 and asked a post-plebiscite conference that brings together the stakeholders of the international system to build a political foundation that respects us as a people, juridical equal to Cameroon. They abandoned us to Cameroon. Cameroon immediately turned its own constitution into La Constitution Fédérale. They did this mistake once. There will be no way, under the watch of this generation, that Cameroon will be given the opportunity to organize within its own territory any conference, conflict resolution medium that will negotiate the end of its occupation of our homeland. It will not happen under our watch. Let the United Kingdom, let the United States, the Germans, the Swedish, the Norwegians, the Belgians, let the South Africans, the Rwandans, the Namibians, let all of those who voted for our independence before know that this generation will end the occupation of Ambazonia on its own terms. That the negotiation will be on how speedily Cameroon leaves our homeland, the amount of reparation it's going to pay for 57 years of thuggery, the compensation it's going to give to the Ayuk family, the family of the Mancho, BBC, the Ndangos, the Beijings, the Tassans, that it is going to determine the amount of compensation it's going to pay to the Akum Eric's family, the Mami RPs, all those who've suffered mental torture because of the occupation of our homeland. Those are the terms of the negotiation. And it will be done out of Cameroon with interpleaders of our choice who believe in us, trust in us, and believe in the creative genius of the Ambazonian people to be the masters of their own destiny. This is non-negotiable. Alive or death, Ambazonians, take note. The fool us once, shame on them. The fool us the second time, shame on us. My fellow Ambazonians, when we define the strategy for our liberation, we did not make self-defense the only component. We did not make the right to invoke the responsibility to protect our people the primary component. War was declared on Ambazonia more than 57 years ago. That same war was redeclared on the tarmac of the Simalen Airport on the 30th of November 2017. That war declaration translated into the deployment of thousands of Cameroonian troops into Ambazonia with heavy weapons, with the powers to shoot and kill, and to burn the corpses of our people, with the powers to destroy our villages and make sure our people had no place to call home, with the powers to abduct our people and transfer them into their own land. When war was declared on us, Cameroon thought we will surrender, as we have done for 57 years. We didn't surrender. We fought Cameroon using a strategy that was conceived based on the analysis of the actors in the field, understanding of the reaction of Mr. Biya, understanding of the backers of Cameroon. We built a strategy taking into consideration the understanding of our geopolitical reality, knowing that fighting from within without having an external base, an external backer, we needed to spread the army of Cameroon, to fight them within every block and make every Ambazonian boy above the age of 18 a soldier of the revolution. We didn't say from the beginning the defense of the homeland is simply to gain independence. We said the defense of the homeland was designed to keep Ambazonians alive, was designed to make Ambazonia ungovernable for the occupier, was designed to increase the cost of the occupation, was also designed to send a message to the international system. If we do not invoke the responsibility to protect the Ambazonian people, we will have no choice than to recourse on ourselves, to believe in ourselves, to defend the right of our people to live, to protect our cities. So far, the short-term objectives that we set forth have been achieved. You have fought as hard as stupid. All of you in the diaspora have made sure that we combine our effort through strict actions, through mobilization, targeted diplomacy. You've mobilized resources to be able to invest and become the primary investors in your own liberation. You've shaken the foundation of Cameroon, shaken the foundation upon which post-1960 neocolonialism is rooted. You won on your own terms. We have arrived at the climax of our strategic objectives. So what you see on the ground, the killing of our men, the kidnapping of our people, is because we have reached the climax of our strategic thinking. We have achieved the short-term objectives that we defined at the beginning of the self-defense campaign. So it is the position of leadership to up the ante, to make sure we put in place the next phase of strategies that will excite our base, take us to the next level, make Ambazonia a contender, so that the messages coming from the House of Lords or the German Parliament or the US Senate will be different. I want to assure every Ambazonian, we are working hard. Remember, when you ask, where is the army we promised? When you thought we betrayed you on the 1st of October, when you thought we betrayed you on the 22nd of September 2017, I made a solemn promise. In a revolution like ours, What you see at the surface has taken many years to build underneath. The manifestation of strategy at the surface has been in incubation for many years, tested in trial processes, redefined as the occupier captures intelligence. We will make Ambazonia a contender. We are working hard on the ground to re-strategize, to build a defense strategy in such a way that it counters the move of the occupier. There have been many infiltrations. There have been many amateurs who have entered into the playing field. Some of those amateurs are same persons who populated the political field in different countries. And because they thought, the political field is going to give us independence. And as they have discovered that it takes more than articulation of political ideals and ideas to be able to bring independence to a people, they have shifted their focus into defense. So remember, when these persons populated the political strata of our revolution in different countries, we experienced the same level of chaos at the political realm. As they've moved into defense, we will experience some seismic shift, some confusion, some chaos. But the strategy we designed had factored in all of these deviances. And so the system is an automated one that is readjusting itself to the new reality. And be rest assured that as you saw with the blossoming of self-defense, with the defense of Batibo, Kwakwa, Lebialem and other places, we are going to move to that next level where there is stability at the realm of self-defense. I wouldn't talk about the details here, but La Republic knows that we are the last generation to defend our homeland. I want to assure each and every one of you, there are a fury of diplomatic activities. I've had 2 meetings in the House of Lords. There are a couple of other meetings that we are planning. Next year, there would be a leadership retreat under UNPO, that the leaders of Ambazonia will be able to interact with other leaders of different movements, different countries that gain independence through UNPO. We will make sure all the leaders of Ambazonia are able to be part of this retreat so we can gain some experience from others who've been here before and who've moved ahead. I also want to announce the holding of an interparliamentary conference for Ambazonians next year in 2019. At this stage of our revolution, we must make as many friends as possible. We must learn the culture of revolutions through interactions with different bodies and different institutions and different organizations. That we should bring our best minds together to be able to build the foundation upon which a new Ambazonia is going to rest. In the past weeks also, some experts have briefed me on the creation of an Amba Currency. I have just been briefed in the past few hours that it has been announced. I give my support to that initiative, and I'm made to understand it will lead to the creation of the Ambazonian Treasury. The foundation of a new Ambazonia begins now. It begins with fighting on the ground, engaging in targeted diplomacy, making sure we continue the international mobilization across the globe. Ambazonians, you've done well. You've stood your grounds in the face of confusions that have been brought to bear in our struggle through infiltrations. In this revolution, there are 4 categories of persons. You have the occupier, Cameroon, that has brought pain and suffering to the Ambazonian people, that has brutalized our cities, burned down our villages, and displaced our mothers and our brothers and sisters. You have the second category, Ambazonians, patriot volunteers fighting in the trenches of our homeland, defending our mothers, defending our villages, defending our towns. You have the bystanders, the spectators. The spectators within Ambazonia and the international system. These spectators are watching. They are watching the barometer of this revolution, understanding how it moves. If it is moving negatively, they are going to join the occupier. If it is moving positively, they are going to join the principal stakeholder in this fight, which is the Ambazonian people. So the words you say, the things you do, the articulations you make will determine whether spectators become your friends or your enemies. And then you have the opportunists. The opportunists are like spoilers. They observe and to make gains on where you falter. The opportunists are those who think, in the midst of war, when our villages have been burned down, our citizens thrown out of our cities and living in the bushes, they can organize a conference in our capital without the consent of all those who are bleeding for Ambazonia. In these four categories of people, only the Ambazonian people will shape their destiny according to their own wishes. Only you, the creative genius of the block-by-block revolution, the master planners of the defense of Kembong, of the defense of Kwakwa, Batibo, and other places, Bali, Bamenda, will shape your future. You are the masters of your own destiny. You've rewritten the books of how revolutions are conducted. The sadness of the moment should not slow you down. These are things that are going to occur in a revolution. Expect Cameroon to become more frustrated, to burn more schools, kidnap more school children. Expect Cameroon to become more frustrated, burn the bodies of our civilians, kill our civilian population and put den guns on them. Expect Cameroon to become more frustrated as it loses territory. It loses where it had milked our country for 57 years. Expect that the occupier of your homeland is going to become even more frustrated, even more brutal. It is going to build counter-revolutionary measures using opportunists, using bystanders and spectators to be able to make you feel like you are losing. Come to think of it. What do you call losing when you could make the Lords to speak for you? You make the Germans to bat for you, the Americans to propagate your case, the international system to be able to understand who you are rightly defined as Ambazonians. How can you think you are losing when in the House of Lords, gorgeous Dinkas, Ambazonia could be called in the House of Lords? How could you think you're losing when in the face of all of these, we are able to drive them out of Jakiri, to block them in Kumbo? You're winning, Ambazonians. The mental liberation has been achieved. There are more than 10,000 Ambazonian fighters in the homeland. In all the villages, in all the blocks, Ambazonians are fighting on a daily basis to defend their blocks. Ambazonians are fighting on a daily basis with their bare hands. They are making weapons. They are making bullets. You've changed the destiny of the next generation. You've rewritten the history of our country. You've given hope to a generation that knew nothing else but hopelessness. You've built a bridge across the valley that Ambazonians could only dream of what was ahead but could not cross. You build the foundation upon which the next generation is going to build a homeland. You've given them something to build on. You've given the international system a new chapter in the way revolutions are fought. If you will die today, you will be remembered as the generation that rewrote the history of our country. the then gun generations that fought helicopter gunships, the men and women with catapults, with bow and arrows. You are the sole masters of your destiny, the champions of our generation. You are the harbinger of our norms and values. You are the citizens of Ambazonia, the pride of the unborn, the courage of those who are in jail, the hope of those who've never known hope. God bless you all. Good night.